Hi everyone, welcome to Tom's Man Shed and welcome to part 3 of a 3-part video series about me adding extra gauges, temperature, voltmeter, stuff like that to the Scorpion. Now I've never had to do a 3-part series before, but there's been tons and tons and tons to ram in, so to do in one video would have been way too long. Now even each individual bit is quite long, sort of 40 minutes ish, so if you want to skip the boring bits or bits that you're not concerned in, please use the red line underneath. I've annotated each bit what it is so you can skim along to the bits you're interested in. Okay, so I also filmed this while I was waiting for the temperature gauge that I fitted in part 2 to arrive. So during the video you will notice that the voltmeter that featured in, I'm getting mixed up with parts, it featured in part 1 is in its original place. In part 2 I used that space to fit the new water temperature gauge and I moved it over to the right. You'll notice in this video it's back in its original place because this was filmed before I fitted the water temperature gauge. So like I said, this is about all the other stuff I've done over the years before I fitted these two or three new gizmos. So during this I thought it'd be useful to show you what I fitted, which includes a little marine radio right down in the footwell with 2 Pioneer speakers. Sounds great and is unobtrusive. It doesn't spoil the looks of the dashboard or anything like that. It's really great. It's waterproof, although it don't get much water down there. It can play AM or FM. There's no DAB on it. It can play from a memory stick, USB memory stick, or Bluetooth. And I show you that in action. It only seems to pick up a radio signal around here, which is quite a weak place for radio, via an aerial amplifier I fitted in the boot. Again, I'll be going into that. I'll skim over use of the fan override, which has been explained fully in the other episode, the other parts. I'll also mention all these ancillaries are switched via a fuse box I fitted. So I'll show you the fuse box I got and where to get it from. So each one has got its own fuse. And also I'll be going into detail on swapping this, which is the brake light switch. Unusually it's hydraulically operated. On your normal car and that it's from a switch under the pedal. Not on the Scorpion. It uses the hydraulic pressure in the brake lines to operate this switch, and they are known for not lasting that long. I'm on my 3rd one, although it's 16 years I've had the car. The good thing about them is they are dirt cheap and they're dead easy to fit. I'll show you that in detail later on. And also one sort of final thing, which I still think are a great invention. These fuses are called glow when they blow, and as the name suggests, they glow, that little light there, and there's 2 different sorts, one with a red LED, one with this white incandescent. I'll be showing you both in detail. The good thing is they glow when they blow, so if you've got a blown fuse you don't have to go looking for which one is and pulling them out and which one's gone, or looking at a list of which fuse does what. You just look for the one that's lit up, that's the one that's blown, and swap it. Great idea. I'll be showing you them in action. So quite a lot to cram in. Again, about 40 minutes long. So let's get straight into that now with starting up the wiring from the battery. Okay, the way I've got everything wired up is going to the main power switch, which I'll show you in a minute on the dash, to switch these ancillaries. So because it's switching everything, the fan override is the only thing that's taking loads of power, 5-6 amps. Then you have your radio and the aerial amplifier in the boot and the sat nav. So I've got a 10 amp fuse in there, and that runs along on quite a hefty cable to there. That changes to this braided cable here, and that runs all the way to the front. So that runs to the front here, and then it goes to this. main power switch on the dash. As you can see, that illuminates green, and that is the main power switch for all these four things here. I'll go into detail shortly what them four things do. The two above are switched from the ignition, not via that power switch. Again, I'll show you them what they do later. So from that main power switch on the dash, that cable runs along to this fuse box here. So you can see all the fuses I've got in here. I've got a 10 amp one at the back there because of the 6 amp draw of the fan override. And then we've got the lower powered things, which are fan override, aerial amplifier in the boot, the sat nav and the radio. That's the little lid for that fuse box, so that goes on securely there. As you can see, all the inputs are on the left and all the outputs to them four switches are on the right. And any cables are covered, everything is labelled, permanent live to sat nav, switch live, permanent live to the radio switch, the memory in the radio, switch live to the sat nav and the temperature gauge, and so on. And while we're under here, that's the relay for the horns, 2 Fiam electromagnetic horns, which are extremely loud. All the earths to an earth block there, all got their own earth, and then that is covered with this little bit of canvas. Now that originally went right down to the bottom and along there and up there and covered all this. But since I fitted this fan, I've decided it's better if there's loads of air gaps under here. So as you can see now, there's air gaps there, and low down here, and all above, and up and there, into the cab. So plenty of outlets for the radiator fan when it kicks in. Before, it was trapping a lot of the heat in there, which wouldn't have been as good cooling. So I got that big master switch and all the other little ancillary switches from AliExpress because I did this many years ago. You can use AliExpress. It's always a risk because things take forever to come, 3 or 4 weeks. If they do go wrong, sending them back to China can be a nightmare, so you just got to basically write it off. So if you want to save loads of money and run all that risk, by all means use AliExpress. If not, I'd suggest using Amazon. So I'll quickly show you, very similar to the one I used. So you can see here on AliExpress the sort of thing I got. It was probably one of these. So it was many years ago, so I can't remember which one it was, but different size. As I'll explain shortly on the other ones, when I show you the little ones, always make sure you click latching. Momentary means that you push it once, and when you let go, it's off again. It's only on when you're holding your finger on it, basically, so you always want a latching one. So yeah, that's the sort of stuff you can get off AliExpress. Now, always make sure that it's obvious this, but always make sure that master switch is the current capacity of it is equal or exceeds all the ancillaries you're going to switch from it. Like I say, in my case, that feeds a 4-way fuse box, which feeds my sat nav, the radio, the aerial amplifier in the boot, and the fan override switch. Now, the first 3 of them use hardly any current whatsoever, but the fan uses 6 amps of current. Now, the little tiny switches, I'll show you these in detail soon, the most you can seem to get them at is 5 amp. So they are 5 amp switches. Okay, one of them is switching a 6 amp load, but I don't think that 1 amp is going to make much difference. It's certainly not blowing a 5 amp fuse, the fan anyway, when I tried it. So, yeah, hopefully that'll be all okay. But always make sure the current rating for whatever you're switching is, the switch is capable of it. Now, like I said, from that main one, go into the fuse box, and then from the fuse box that goes to them 4 separate ones. Now they are very similar to this. This is one I got from Amazon for another project, and they come either with or without this end cap thing. Now I would always advise getting them with that. You can solder the wires on direct, but if ever you need to replace it, it's taking them off and unsoldering or using the little tiny push-on connectors. It's a lot easier. You can wire that into your car's wiring harness back to the fuse box, and then that just connects behind the dash with a push-on thing like that. It comes with a full set of instructions, or they come with a full set of instructions on how to wire them up, because you can have the LED on when it's on or when it's off or whatever, and you can have the switching both ways. In is on, which is on, and off is out. Again, I mentioned before, always get a latching one. A latching one stays in when you push it in. Don't know whether you can see that, it's staying inside. I made a mistake at first without looking at that, and when I got them, they were just momentary switches, so only on when you're holding it in. As soon as you let go, they spring back out and they're off. So be careful that you're buying a latching one. So that's the sort of switch I had. Let's have a quick look at that on Amazon now. So that's the one I've just shown you that I got from Amazon. Very similar to the ones I've fitted. Like I said, I got this for something else. Can't remember what I got it for now. But that's got like a symbol on the front and on off. The ones I've got fitted aren't. But other than that, they're identical to this. And it shows you all the dimensions and what they're just like I've shown you in the instructions. What it is, and they came as two in a bag for £8. So much dearer than AliExpress, but I would advise getting them from Amazon if possible. Much easier returns than that. Okay, so that's all the types of switches I used and where to source them from. So let's have a look at them now, and I'll go through what each individual one does. So as I explained in this, it goes from that power switch first to the fuse box, and then from the fuse box out to the switch, and then the whatever it is switching. So each separate one has its own separate fuse. Let's have a look at them in action and show you the various colours and things now. As I mentioned, that is the master switch there. That illuminates green on or off, and that sends power via the fuse box. So each of these switches has its own individual fuse to these various things. So we've got top right is this yellow one here. That's the sat nav. Sat nav goes on there. That's the mount for it. There's no need to me to show you the sat nav working. Right, turn the lights, the sat nav off, and this one on the left, top left, green one, is the radio. Now when I turn this on, you won't hear much, just interference, because it does need an aerial amplifier, which is the switch underneath. There's an aerial amplifier in the boot, just tucked away, a little gizmo, so we'll just put the radio on its own. As you can hear, just nothing really. As soon as we put the amplifier on, yeah, that's the aerial there. And like I say, it's got its own little amplifier in there, that little box of tricks. And it's fused from the fuse box at the front, and it's also got its own fuse there as well.
But the constraints, I think, are more practical than legal. Our Constitution has like 3 requirements for running for president. You have to be 35, you have to be a natural-born citizen, and you have to have been
off again. Just the radio on its own. So I'll turn the radio off. And then we've got the fan override in blue at the bottom there. And of course, as shown earlier, the fan override switch comes on, and with all 4 of them on, a bit like Blackpool illuminations. So turn all these off now. So you saw earlier on how each of them switches is fed from the fuse box. Let's have a quick look now on Amazon at the sort of fuse box I fitted. So this one here is very similar to the one I fitted. I don't think it's exact. Again, I may have got that off AliExpress as well, but as you can see on Amazon, there's all sorts of 6-way ones, 12-way ones, and this one here, mine was just a 4-way one. So your connections come in one side and then individually fused and switched out to your 4 things. If I was doing this again, I'd probably get a 6-way one. Leaves me 2 spare for anything I decide to fit in the future. But that's the sort of the fuse box that you saw earlier on. So yeah, like I say, I fitted a 4-way one. There's nothing wrong with doubling up 2 separate items switched from the same fuse. Your car does that. If you look at your car fuse box thing, it'll say like fuse A switches the windscreen wipers, the radio, and this, that, and the other. But it's easier if each individual one is switched from its own fuse, and then it's easier diagnosing why that fuse has blown. But of course, you're limited in space as well under the bonnet of this Scorpion, so a 4 or a 6 one would be ideal. So that's them 4 switches down there, switched by that master switch. They're working with the ignition off. Now, the 2 above that you caught a glimpse of then, which I'll show you in action now, are the top left one, the blue one, is a fog light. I'll show you a quick picture up here or on screen now of the fog light. As you can see, it's just mounted there next to the rear number plate, and of course just comes on only when you've got your headlights on as well. And the other one is something I've wired up. As I'll show you in a minute, the switch itself isn't in use. I wired up just the LED around it to the hydraulic switch for the brake. I've also put another red switch, again, that you saw earlier on, or you'll see again soon as well, next to the fan override switch that again comes on when I push my foot on the brakes to show me the hydraulic switch is working. That will then leave that top right hand switch and it's light redundant, and I can use that for something else. Now, the reason being, the brake switch in the Scorpion is switched hydraulically. So when your brake lights come on, they are powered by a little switch here, which screws in to a fitting on your brake line. And when you push your brake and the hydraulic pressure goes to your shoes, it operates this switch and your rear brake lights come on. Now, as you can see, these are 2 I've fitted in the past. Why I keep the old ones, I don't know. Bit of a hoarder. So I'm on my 3rd brake switch, so they do go. If you've had yours, and I don't know how many it had before I had it. I'd had it 16 years, so I'm on my 3rd one in 16 years, so they seem to last about 5 years or so, depending on the use, and I don't give it much use. But if you've had yours longer and it's been reliable, great. But these are the brake switch, and you'll find that when they are worn out, you have to absolutely stamp on the brakes much harder than you would during normal use to bring the rear brake lights on. So 99% of the time they're not working. They would only work in like an emergency stop. I found that out once when there was a police car following me for ages and ages, and then he stuck his lights on and pulled me in. Pull over. I thought, oh my God, what's going wrong here? He says, you've no brake lights, mate. So I says, so I stamped really hard on. I didn't know at the time. I stamped hard on. He says, oh, they're coming on now, like. But when I got home, when I just used them normal pressure, it wasn't working. That was the first time I realised this was at fault. Don't know why Grinnell couldn't have put a little normal switch just under the brake pedal. But no, they use this. Good thing about it is it's very, very cheap. I can't remember how much they are, about a tenner, I think. Probably 15 at the most. And if you do need to source one, that's the thing. I think they're off a Mini. Mini Metro or Mini or something like that, I'm not sure. They should be able to get that if you want to do a freeze frame of that, an SMB 42.3 brake light switch. That's the one. So I'll show you it in position on the car, and then I'll show you the lights in action coming on when I press the pedal. So this is the position just there on top of the right hand bit of the frame, the chassis or whatever, and that is the switch that brings your rear brake lights on. And like I say, it's hydraulically powered. You can see it's in the hydraulic line and it just screws in there. So we'll just zoom in on that. So that's it there now, and as you can see, I've got this tie wrap round it now, holding these sockets tight in. So I'll just take this tape off just to show you in detail. As you can see, there's just the 2 terminals, and this is a double terminal, and that is the piggyback one to the indicator light on the dashboard, and the other indicator light as well. That is the switch. That's how it goes in. That's them 2 connections. And like I say, it's dead easy. You just literally pull the 2 connections off, unscrew that, get this one ready threaded with a bit of PTFE tape, your new one, and just take the old one out and whiz the new one in. You lose just about 1 drop, if anything, of brake fluid. Makes no difference whatsoever. Just tighten your new one up. That's it. Easiest part to swap on the whole Scorpion, I think. So that's the tape back on, and like I say, if you want to do like I did, just wrap a tie wrap around there and them spade connectors, and it just keeps them from popping off. I have had one, due to vibration, just work its way off, so that keeps one, and the tapes just to stop anything touching them. So you can see how easy it is and how cheap it is to replace if you need to. So let's have a look at it operating the 2 lights now at the top of the dash. And the 2 above they're not switched by this switch. There's nothing to do with this, so we can turn that one off now. These 2 above are, this one, the switch itself is redundant. I'm not using that switch at the moment. I'm only using the light around it as a brake indicator light, just to tell me that the hydraulic switch is switched on underneath, and this top one is your fog lights. I'll switch that, and if I put my brakes on now, you can see that is lighting up, as is this extra one I put in. I've put this one in because eventually, you know, I might use this switch for something else, something I haven't thought of yet, and I can use the switch and its indicator lights for that. But at the moment, you can see it's for the lights, but that's an Embraer one. So that just tells me that switch, the hydraulics brake switch, is actually working, and I'm only pressing quite gently, so I know it's in good condition. And again, the one above, the fog light switch, it's doing nothing at the moment until I turn the lights on. And that's a blue one for the fog lights. And a quick shot to finish of all the lights on as they appear at night. So this is it all, everything lit and going, including the new thermometer down there. Now, you may have noticed, I may have mentioned, I'm not sure, but in the fuse box, the fuses, some of the fuses I've used have looked a bit unusual, and they're a great idea. I didn't even know until a few years ago when I first did it that these things existed, and they're called glow as they blow fuses. And the idea is that once they have blown, a little light comes on the end of them. Now, there appears to be 2 sort of designs. If you look at this one, that's got a little bit coming out the end of it. And this one looks just like a normal conventional fuse, but there is a bit in the middle that glows red. Now, these are a bit brighter. It's like a white light it gives out. This is like a red, small red LED. But either of which, you can tell which one has blown. So it's great if it blows a fuse, you can just look at the under the bonnet, or I've even put them in the ones at the back. They're all glow as they blow ones, and I can immediately see which one has gone. I'll show you a demo here. I've rigged up a battery. Well, in fact, first of all, I'll just show you. I can't remember where I got these from, the ones with the thing. I can't seem to find them on Amazon, so they may have been eBay, but the ones I've just bought recently with the red neon are these on Amazon. And as you can see, these are the 10 amp ones. I bought some 10 amp ones and I bought some 5 amp ones. They're $2.99 for a pack of 5, but you can only buy a minimum of 2 packs. But it's still good value. So, you know, 2 of them, 2 packs of them, that's 10 fuses for sort of £6. And again, I bought the yellow ones here, the 5 amp ones, same price. So that's them on Amazon. So let's see them now. I filmed earlier on at the car. First of all, under the bonnet, under the nose cone, the fuse box I fitted, I replaced the one for the fan, which, like I say, is a 6 amp draw. I replaced that with like a 1 or a 2 amp fuse to make it purposefully blow. Now, you'll have to excuse the haziness here. I don't know why. It was a clear day. I think I was getting a bit of too much light in, and it was overexposing. But it looks like it's in fog, but you can still see it in action as it actually blows. Okay, so I'm going to turn the fan override on now, which draws 5 or 6 amps, and I've only got a 2 amp fuse in, so hopefully you should see this blow. Fan may come on for an instant, and then you should see the bulb blow, hopefully. So that was the one under the bonnet. Let's do the same now in the boot. This is the standard Grinnall Fusebox in the car from the factory. Again, I've labelled all the fuses. You probably can't see it, but there's a label saying what they all do. And I've taken the 15 amp one, the blue one, out, which feeds the headlamp on dip. And I've replaced that with a 5 amp fuse, the other sort. So hopefully, being a 15 amp load, it will blow the 5 amp fuse. And let's see that happen now. Okay, so I've taken the normal 15 amp one out for the low beams, which is normally that one, the blue one. And that's a glow as they blow, but with the sticky out bit on the end. These are the ones that have just come, the 5 and the 10 amp ones. So I'm going to put that in there. So we've now got a 5 amp fuse in there, and hopefully when we turn the headlights on it should blow and you should see it light up. Right, I'm going to turn the headlights on now. And yeah, as you can see, it has now blown that fuse, but a little red light. So there you can see a little red neon in the middle of it, indicating that it has indeed blown. Okay, so I've just altered the camera down so you can see the battery and the fuse. I don't know whether you can see on there. The fuse has in fact blown. You can see it easier on this one than the grey one, so I'll show you on this. But you can see there is a gap. It is an actually blown fuse. And if I connect this up now, I'll zoom the camera into this position. So yeah, I've just connected this up to this battery. If I hold that on there and that there, you can see the red light easily. And if I put the other fuse in, this one, like I say, the light is a bit brighter and easier to see to my mind, but the fuse itself sticks out further. So if you've got a close fit-in fuse box or whatever, the other one would be better. But just put this on there, You can see that's very bright. It's bright to the camera, but I can actually see it's like an incandescent. It's not an LED on this, it's just like a normal incandescent bulb. But either one, as you can see, great idea. So I showed you earlier on when I was showing you the switches, the radio and the aerial amplifier in the boot, the radio switches. But I didn't show you the radio in detail. Now, the reason I bought it was my old Garmin 595 Zumo, as does this Garmin XT Zumo, can both transmit their voice instructions for guidance, lane changes, directions, turn left here and that, via Bluetooth, which was great because it could do it straight into my helmet. And my idea was, if I wasn't wearing my helmet, which I don't usually do, to play through the speakers of the stereo. But the problem was, it's pretty loud, as you'll hear shortly, and plenty of music volume when you're out the thing. But when you're in it, with the speakers being down at low level, that's shielded by your legs and your passenger's legs, and at high speed, like at 70, particularly if it was windy, I couldn't hear the instructions. So I tried a couple of little speakers. I'll show you them later when I'm showing you the extension socket on top of the dash, out in the open, so I could hear it better. Now they were great. I could hear them no problem, even on the motorway. But the problem was when you were off the motorway in a town centre and pulling up next to lights or whatever, and it used to scream out, turn left out the next thing. It was really loud and everybody was looking around, so it was a bit embarrassing. So I got myself this. Now, click the little tab up here to see a full test of this. It's really good. You look a bit of a prat, but nobody's going to notice it as you're driving along. And it's a Bluetooth speaker, and it's being right next to your ears. I have no problem, even in the wind at 70 miles an hour on the motorway, and it's waterproof and everything, hearing the voice instructions. It's not as good as a set of speakers, obviously, for audio files, for music, but for what I want it for hearing the voice instructions for the sat-nav, it's absolutely ideal. So that's what I use now. But this little radio, it's a marine radio, and it has Bluetooth, as just explained. You can play off, as you'll see shortly, music files off a memory stick. It's AM, FM, and let's have a look at it now. This is the one I got. I got it off eBay. Yeah, they are on Amazon here, but similar ones, but a lot dearer. That's got DAB though, 109 that. And again, that's 161, good grief. That's 99, coming down price. So that's very similar to what I got, but yeah, way dearer on Amazon. As you'll see on eBay here, 50 quid. And there's the features. AM, FM, 4 times 25 watts output, USB, Bluetooth, UV stable, waterproof. As you can see, they're only 2 inches deep, so no problem fitting them. It clears the chassis members behind the fiberglass there. And I quite like it. So that's the radio I got. So let's see it in action now, and you'll be able to actually hear what it sounds like. Like I say, on this USB stick is some YouTube royalty-free music, so we shouldn't get any copyright strikes. So this is the radio, and in the sort of driver's footwell, and I've got it on a talkie radio channel at the moment, so it hopefully won't be picking up any YouTube copyright clashes. And you can see there on the left is up and down channel search, volume up, volume down in the middle, and the band and the mode. Now the mode is to go onto Bluetooth or FM, AM, or play from the memory stick. Just see, probably see the display a bit better as I go darker there. Memory stick, I'm just going to plug it in the socket above this socket here on top of the dash. and as you can hear, it automatically switches to that. And again, this is some copyright free music I've downloaded from YouTube. If we turn it up, so I'll show you this live. We're on the radio now on FM, as you can hear, talkie channel. And as I plug this in, just plug that straight in, and it automatically switches over to it. And unplug it.
A bit advanced of my age, really.
And it's back to radio.
Reading R.G. Collingwood's The Idea of History.
And you can see I'm stood here. It's pretty loud. So yeah, it works pretty well. So yeah, as you saw and heard there, it's pretty effective. And them speakers I mentioned that I rigged up, I tried two, both on that GoPro mount, so I could just slide them on. That was okay, not quite sort of loud enough, but this one, this Iono, and it's a Bluetooth one as well, was great. I wired it in directly to this little socket on top of the dash next to the USB input, and yeah, plenty loud enough that, but like I say, very, very embarrassing in town when people could hear the sat-nav full blast. So that's the radio. And one final thing you may have noticed in some of the shots in the background is this thing here. What I use this for, it's just a little screw-fix portable power bank. Only sort of like a couple of amps, but I use it as a smoothing supply for up this lead to my Osmo Action camera, like a GoPro that mounts on there. I'll tell you in a second why. And that goes down, and under here there's just a double 12 volt cigar socket type adapter. In the top socket is a USB adapter that's taped on so it doesn't vibrate out, so it still leaves me one spare socket for like a tyre inflator or whatever, and then that's permanently feeding and charging that power bank. And like I said, that power bank is then sending the supply up there. So yeah, the reason for that battery is a couple of years ago I was on another run out in the Scorpion at an event, and I just clip it on that thing, swivel it round, and it's all there ready to go and film the journey or whatever. But after about half an hour or so of filming, it got extremely hot. Now, I know there was loads of problems with the GoPro overheating, and I think these early Mark 1 Osmos do a bit, but I didn't, and it just went haywire. It just stopped working. It wouldn't turn on or off. I knew the battery was fully charged. I let it cool down and took the battery out and then put it back, and then later on at sort of like tea time it was working fine, but at first I thought I'd bust it. Now, I wasn't sure whether it was because I'd wired it in direct to that 12 volt thing, not direct to the 12 volts, but via an adapter, a USB adapter in that 12 volts with the lead straight up to the camera. And I wondered if, with the engine revving and getting to 13.5 volts sometimes, whether that would have affected it. I wouldn't have thought so, because that's what car adapters do, don't it? Your normal domestic car, you put your USB adapter in the 12 volt socket and you can charge your phone and stuff on the go. It doesn't increase the voltage, but I wasn't 100% sure, so I thought I'll go through that little battery pack. I'd got it free as a free gift from Screwfix, and I've never used it. It's only a 2 amp battery pack, but I thought that would act as a little sort of smoother out. So if there is fluctuations in voltage going into that will be a steady 5 volts output to the USB. So I've run it from that, and since then I've not had that same problem, but whether it's that or not, I don't know. But that, I think, is the final gizmo I've got on the car at the moment. I've nothing else planned, but you never know. But yeah, that's all the gadgets covered, I'm pretty sure. So there you have it. We've finally reached the end of part 3 If you have watched all 3 episodes, thank you very, very much for sticking with me to the end. I hope it's been of some use. It all started off, like I say, with my obsession for this measuring temperature from the incident I had last month with the RAC. Check this tab up here to see what absolute diabolical, disgusting service I got from the RAC. Worse than no service at all. Full story there, and that's what set me off on this. I'd like to fit some extra temperature gauge just to monitor it more. But hopefully showing you all the bits I've added, and particularly this last one, some of the stuff I've added in the past, might give you some ideas and show you how easy it is to do if you want to do something the same. You don't need any of them at all to enjoy the Scorpion, but like I say, I do like my gadgets, and I'm glad I fitted them, and they've all proved okay. So, again, thank you for watching this. Please give me a thumbs up. Oh, I forgot to add, I will put all the links below to everything I've used in this video, and probably tag on what I used in part 1 and 2 as well. But whatever, the links will be underneath, but they are affiliated links to Amazon, apart from the eBay one, which I think is affiliated, I'm not sure. But all it means is if you do click on them and you buy something from that browsing session, I get a tiny bit of commission. It won't cost you any extra whatsoever, but it gets me a few pennies, and it all helps keep the channel going. So, like I say, thanks for watching this one. If it isn't up already, that air conditioning one is going to be on. It's going to be finished filming this week. It is the 4th of September today. It's 28 degrees in here at the moment. In 2 days' time, it's forecast even hotter outside. So that's the day I plan on doing the full filming on that, with all the running costs and everything. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so by clicking the little picture here of the shed. And like I say, give me a thumbs up if it has been of any use. See you for the next one very, very soon. Bye for now.